72 hours. That's all it took for an artificial intelligence to crack a mystery that has haunted humanity for 12,000 years. No bias, no religious agenda, no academic reputation to protect. Just raw computational power analyzing patterns that human eyes were never meant to see. And what it found changes everything we thought we knew about our past. Because the Great Flood wasn't a myth, it was a cover-up. And beneath the waves lies evidence of a world we were never supposed to remember. For over a century, the Great Flood debate has been deadlocked. On one side, over 200 flood myths from every inhabited continent. The Mesopotamians told of Utnapishtim surviving a divine flood. The Greeks spoke of Deucalion rebuilding humanity after Zeus drowned the world. Hindu texts describe Manu warned to build a boat before the waters came. The Mayans, Native Americans, even Aboriginal Australians all tell the same story. A global catastrophe, a handful of survivors, the old world destroyed. But mainstream science dismissed it all. Local floods, they said, exaggerated campfire stories, religious mythology, not historical fact. The stalemate continued for generations, until now. Because something just entered this debate that doesn't care about belief systems. It only cares about data. Scientists fed an advanced AI system everything. 50 years of geological surveys from every continent, satellite ocean floor mapping from NOOA, ice core samples from Greenland preserving 100,000 years of climate history, over 200 flood myths analyzed for linguistic evolution, sediment layers from lakes and oceans, archaeological reports from 500-plus locations, ancient texts, modern scientific papers, deep-sea sonar scans. Petabytes of information, the kind of cross-referencing that would take human researchers multiple lifetimes. For 72 hours, the system churned through the data, pattern recognition algorithms finding correlations across seemingly unrelated datasets, machine learning separating signal from noise. And then it produced a report that should have been impossible. The AI did something no human had accomplished. It triangulated an exact date for a global flood event, 12,800 years ago. It cross-referenced ice core data showing rapid climate change signatures, sediment layers from 6 continents showing geological disturbance, even analyzed linguistic evolution of the flood myths themselves, working backward to estimate when the original event occurred. Every method pointed to the same window, 12,800 years ago. This date corresponds exactly with the Younger Dryas, a sudden mini ice age where global temperatures plummeted in mere decades. But the AI found something scientists missed. It wasn't what caused the Younger Dryas that mattered. It was what happened when it ended. Massive ice sheets didn't melt gradually, they melted catastrophically. Enormous glacial dams burst, trillions of gallons released in days. And this wasn't isolated, it was a planetary chain reaction. The smoking gun is Washington State's channeled scablands, massive dry waterfalls, deep canyons carved into solid basalt, giant ripples hundreds of feet across, boulders the size of houses scattered like pebbles. In the 1920s, geologist J. Harlan Bretz proposed a radical theory, carved in days by a megaflood of unimaginable power, water moving 65 miles an hour, volume 10 times all Earth's rivers combined. He was ridiculed for 50 years until evidence became undeniable. But the AI found the scablands weren't unique. Identical megaflood landscapes exist in Siberia, Central Asia, Northern Europe. Same patterns, same dating, same mechanism. Then came the secondary effect. When trillions of gallons of meltwater poured into oceans, sea levels rose 400 feet in less than a century. Every coastal settlement on Earth would have been completely submerged. But what was there to submerge 12,800 years ago? The AI flagged archaeological sites that didn't fit the timeline, sites too advanced for their supposed age. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Official story? Oldest temple built by primitive hunter-gatherers 11,600 years ago, right after the flood. But these people supposedly had no pottery, no farming, no metal tools. Yet somehow they quarried 20-ton limestone pillars, transported them to a hilltop, and carved intricate animal reliefs with artistic sophistication unseen for thousands of years after. It's like finding a smartphone in a medieval castle. The AI noticed something else. Göbekli Tepe wasn't abandoned, it was deliberately buried under tons of earth right when the cataclysm hit. Not a temple, a time capsule, a desperate attempt by a dying civilization to preserve knowledge. Then Pumapunku in Bolivia, massive diorite blocks cut with machine precision, perfect 90-degree angles, interlocking H-blocks fitting like Lego. Modern engineers admit they'd struggle to replicate these cuts even with lasers and diamond saws. The AI found extreme water erosion on these stones, high-velocity floodwater, but the erosion suggests the stones were already ancient when buried, then excavated and reused by a much less advanced culture thousands of years later. The AI connected a web of ghost sites globally. Baalbek in Lebanon with 1,000-ton foundation stones, the precision cuts of Sacsayhuaman in Peru. Pattern emerged. Before the flood, technologically sophisticated civilization existed on a global scale. They mastered megalithic construction, understood engineering and astronomy at levels we're only rediscovering. The AI even found these sites align with astronomical constellations and sit on geomagnetic points. This wasn't random, it was planetary design. And then, it was all gone. But the AI had one more data set to analyze: the ocean floor. 70% of Earth is underwater. We've explored less than 20% meaningfully. After identifying land ruins, the AI analyzed decades of sonar scans, declassified naval charts, satellite bathymetry, searching for geometric patterns, straight lines, right angles, things nature doesn't produce randomly. It found them everywhere. Off India's coast, in the Gulf of Khambhat, 120 feet down, sonar revealed what looked like a massive city stretching 5 miles. Divers from India's National Institute of Ocean Technology found enormous geometric structures, gridded streets, artifacts. Carbon dating? Over 9,500 years old. A vast urban center thriving 9,500 years ago. That's 4,000 years before Egypt's pyramids, 5,000 years before Stonehenge, when mainstream history says humans were living in caves. The site is now called Dwarka, named after a legendary city in Hindu texts that was swallowed by the sea. For centuries, scholars assumed it was mythology. It wasn't. Off Japan's coast sits the Unaguni Monument, a massive underwater stepped pyramid. Terraces, straight edges, flat platforms. Some geologists claim natural formation. The AI ran probability calculations. What are odds natural erosion creates so many perfect straight lines, 90-degree angles, symmetrical terraces? Less than 1 in 1 billion. The AI's conclusion: artificial, a man-made structure from before the seas rose. The AI found dozens more. Off Cuba, formations at 2,000+ feet depth, symmetrical stone structures in geometric patterns. In the Mediterranean, submerged harbors and megalithic walls 40 feet underwater dating 10,000 years. Near the Bahamas, the Bimini Road, rectangular stones in linear patterns. The AI mapped them all. A pattern emerged. Coastal population centers along ancient shorelines when seas were 400 feet lower. A maritime trading empire spanning the globe, all inundated simultaneously when ice melted and seas rose. This explains why flood myths mention building boats: Noah's Ark, Hindu Manu's vessel, Mesopotamian Utnapishtim's ark, because the survivors were coastal maritime people who watched the oceans swallow their entire world. They escaped by sea, carrying fragmented memories of their drowned kingdom. But who were they? The AI's final task: analyze oldest myths and texts for descriptions of pre-flood people. The results were consistent across cultures that never contacted each other. Ancient texts don't describe them as being like us. They describe them as different. Sumerian texts speak of Anunnaki, powerful beings who ruled before the flood. The Bible mentions Nephilim, giants, quote, mighty men of old. Greek myths talk of titans who ruled before current gods. Hindu texts describe Deva, advanced beings of great power. Egyptian texts mention Neteru, god-kings of the time before time. Common traits: greater height, extended lifespans, sometimes hundreds of years, advanced knowledge of astronomy and architecture. They ruled Earth before current humanity. And in almost every story, their reign ended in corruption and divine punishment, a cleansing flood. Are these literal descriptions? Were there different humanoid species? Or is this how primitive humans described technologically advanced people they didn't understand? The AI analyzed over 10,000 pieces of ancient art, petroglyphs, cave paintings, sculptures from before and after the flood date. Recurring features: elongated skulls in Egypt, Peru, Malta. Some show genetic elongation, not head binding. Large, disproportionate eyes in Sumerian statues, ancient Japan, Easter Island. Strange proportions, serpentine characteristics. The AI's hypothesis: not gods or monsters, realistic depictions of the pre-flood civilization's ruling class. Whoever they were, they looked different enough that the difference was worth recording. Modern humans may not have evolved in a vacuum. The AI's data suggests we coexisted with this advanced civilization. Our role was likely primitive, subservient, observational, living in the shadow of far more sophisticated culture. Then came the cataclysm. But was it just natural disaster? Multiple texts describe the flood as intentional punishment. What if it wasn't metaphor, but memory? The possibility we must consider: the flood was either a planetary weapon deployed with precision, or a natural disaster that certain powers allowed to run its course, a reset, an event designed to remove the dominant species and let humanity rise. The evidence doesn't point to random natural disaster. It points to something happening with precision timing across continents. Glacial dams all burst within a narrow time frame, almost as if triggered. The few who survived became the first archivists of a dead world. They didn't carry books or blueprints. They carried memories, fragmented, distorted memories of cities under the sea, of massive stones moved by forgotten methods, of knowledge they could no longer replicate. This explains the most puzzling thing about early civilization. Why does it appear fully formed? Sumerians didn't gradually develop writing over millennia. It appeared suddenly, sophisticated, around 3200 BCE. Egypt didn't slowly learn to build pyramids. The Great Pyramid, built around 2560 BCE, is one of the most sophisticated. Later pyramids are inferior, as if knowledge was being lost, not gained. The Indus Valley had urban planning and standardized systems from its beginning. No gradual development, just suddenly advanced cities. They weren't inventing, they were remembering, rebuilding from broken blueprints. The pyramids, the megaliths, weren't monuments to a new beginning. They were desperate echoes of a catastrophic end. We are Civilization 2.0, built in the ruins of a much grander, stranger one, a civilization violently erased from Earth's memory. Everything we thought we knew about our origins is wrong. We're not the first, we're simply the latest iteration, the civilization that grew in ruins of those before. Our greatest achievements might be rediscoveries, reinventions, faint echoes of knowledge that was common but lost when waters came. And it raises a terrifying question. Are we destined to repeat this cycle? Climate change, rising seas, technological advancement without wisdom, the same patterns that ancient texts suggest destroyed the previous world. The AI found evidence of one great flood 12,800 years ago. But what if that wasn't the first? What if this cycle has repeated throughout Earth's history? Civilizations rise, grow advanced, then a reset wipes the board clean? If true, the ruins underwater aren't a warning from the past. They're a preview of our future. 72 hours. That's all it took an AI to solve a mystery humanity debated for thousands of years. The Great Flood was real. It destroyed an advanced global civilization. The evidence sits at the bottom of oceans and buried under sites we've been misinterpreting for centuries. But here's what keeps me up at night. If an AI could find this truth in 72 hours by looking at data without bias, what else are we collectively missing? What other paradigm-shifting truths hide in plain sight? The flood buried their world, their cities, their knowledge, their existence. For 12,000 years, we forgot they existed. We called their story myth. We were wrong. So the real question isn't what happened to them, it's what will bury us. What will future civilizations find at the bottom of our oceans? Will they call our story myth too? The AI solved the mystery, but the answer isn't comforting. It's a warning. The Earth has reset before, and it can reset again. If this changes how you see history, hit that like button, subscribe, because I'm feeding this AI other ancient mysteries, and what it's finding is even more disturbing. Drop a comment. Do you think the flood was natural or something else? The truth is out there. We just needed a machine to show us where to look.